Hello, and welcome back to AzoTech Media. If you're looking for an underrated video game, you've come to the right place. In this video, we list some of the most underrated video games ever published. Before we begin with the list, kindly like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel to enable us create more interesting content like this for you. Without wasting any more time, here are some of the most underrated video games ever published. 1. Sunset Overdrive. If you're looking for a good action-adventure game, Sunset Overdrive is worth checking out. Developed by Insomniac Games, it's a third-person shooter set in the dystopian future of 2027 Sunset City. In the game, you control an employee of Fizzco, a fizzy drink company. You have to survive and stop the overcharged drinkers, mutated humans that have consumed Fizzco's energy drink. You'll use various tools to your advantage, including zip lines, grind rails, and wall run. There's also a cooperative multiplayer mode called Chaos Squad, where you can work with up to 7 other players to finish missions. The art style of Sunset Overdrive is unique with pop art style graphics and a fun, light-hearted storyline. There's also a great soundtrack that complements the gameplay. Sunset Overdrive is a unique game with a wide variety of game modes, including wall running, zip lining, and grinding on rails. 2. No Man's Sky. While the game has received mixed reviews upon its initial launch, Hello Games continues to improve and expand the game. The game recently received several free major content updates, adding new features and multiplayer components. It has also gotten a better reception since its release and has redeemed itself from its troubled launch. Originally, the game had a featureless protagonist and floating orbs for other players to interact with. Thankfully, developers promised a multiplayer mode where players could see other players' character descriptions. In addition to this, the game includes a variety of different types of play styles. 3. Valiant Hearts: The Great War. Valiant Hearts: The Great War is a surprisingly good video game that's based on the history of World War I and the lives of the people who fought for their freedom. While the gameplay is straightforward and the puzzles aren't particularly inventive, it does make for a gripping story. Despite some of its flaws, Valiant Hearts: The Great War is one of the best games of 2014, so you should give it a shot. Its stories aren't terribly complex, but they're realistic, and the game's combat is surprisingly difficult. Players often have to deal with brutal situations, such as being trapped in a trench and being forced to fight off the enemy. The game also focuses on ethnicity, with sections that highlight the underappreciated role of African and Indian troops. 4. Rage 2. While Rage 2 is a worthy sequel to the original game, it has a lot to live up to. Despite being delayed by 9 years, it has improved on most aspects of its predecessor, but it still falls short in other areas. Fans of the first game will definitely enjoy the sequel, which offers a new take on the open-world RPG formula. While the combat system isn't as unique as it was in Rage's predecessor, it does show significant improvement. The game's vehicular combat is also quite enjoyable, though the game never fully explores the use of armored vehicles. The open world, on the other hand, isn't particularly memorable, with a cookie-cutter aesthetic that doesn't lend itself to originality. 5. Sleeping Dogs. Sleeping Dogs is an open-world game in the vein of GTA, with impressive kung fu combat. It's not likely to get a sequel, but the game is one of the best of its generation. Connor is a philosophy geek who loves video games and bad 80s and 90s action movies. The game was a sleeper hit when it first came out, but it has since become an underrated video game with venerable status in the open-world genre. It even received a next-gen upgrade. While the game's sales weren't great, it still possesses unique gameplay elements and the most detailed melee combat system. 6. Contra. The premise is simple: shoot the bad guys until you die. The game's characters are ridiculous, including the hulking Kaiser and a mutant woman named Miss Harakiri. The game also features an insect-like character called Gentleman and a panda named Hungry Beast. It also includes a narrator named Arrow Captain. Contra Road Corps is a video game about killing enemies and destroying spawn points. The gameplay is a bit repetitive and there isn't much of a storyline. 7. Resistance 3. Insomniac Games and Sony Computer Entertainment released Resistance 3 for the PlayStation 3 in 2011. The game is a first-person shooter set in a dystopian future. It's the climax of the Resistance saga, and Resistance 3 is the last of the 3 games. 8. The Evil Within. While it is not a perfect game, it still manages to be terrifying. The story is creepy and atmospheric, and the gameplay is excellent. The second installment improves on the first in several ways. Players will be able to control more of the protagonist's actions, and the gameplay mechanics are refined. The game's story is also more linear and easier to follow. The Evil Within is one of the best games of its type in terms of game flow. The game also features great room-running combat, which is unique among survival games. Sebastian uses various weapons, including a gun and a shotgun, to fight off enemies. He also has different types of bolts to use on his enemies, including a freeze bolt that freezes them. Sebastian then kills them with a shotgun. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.